Welcome back to my channel, The Coin Spot. Today is best top 4 coins, one you want to miss. We're diving into the world of United States coins. Please don't skip top 1 this video, so let's get it started. The 2009 Canada 25 cents coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II, with detailed historical, design, technical, and market information. Written in extended paragraph format for deep understanding, introduction, and historical background. The 2009 Canadian 25 cent coin featuring Queen Elizabeth II is a part of Canada's rich numismatic tradition. This coin holds both historical and cultural value as it was minted during an important period in Canada's preparation for the Vancouver 2010 Winter Olympics. This was not a typical year for Canadian quarters. Instead, it was a year that featured multiple commemorative designs, most of which were sports-themed in support of Canada's Olympic presence. Produced by the Royal Canadian Mint, this coin was released into general circulation, allowing ordinary Canadians to carry a small piece of Olympic history in their pockets. It is part of a multi-year Olympic coin program, 2007 to 2010, that brought excitement to the general public while promoting national pride. The coin also continues the tradition of displaying the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse, signifying Canada's constitutional monarchy and connection to the Commonwealth. The presence of the Queen's effigy is not merely ceremonial, it reflects Canada's enduring identity and its historical ties to the British Crown, even as it moves forward in its own sovereign path. Design elements and symbolism. On the obverse side of the coin, you'll find the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, which is a hallmark of Canadian coinage. The portrait was created by artist Susanna Blunt and was introduced in 2003, marking a notable shift from earlier, more regal portrayals of the Queen. In this version, she is depicted without a crown, symbolizing a more modern and approachable monarchy. Surrounding the portrait are the inscriptions Elizabeth II, D.G. Regina, and the year 2009. The choice to use Latin titles maintains a sense of heritage, tradition, and officialdom that continues to mark Canada's national identity. This side of the coin is used across most Canadian denominations, unifying the currency under a consistent and recognizable royal figure. On the reverse side, the design varies depending on the version of the coin. The standard circulation coin features the iconic caribou, a proud Canadian symbol that has graced the 25-cent piece since 1937. The caribou stands as a symbol of the Canadian wilderness and represents strength and resilience, traits that Canadians often identify with. However, in 2009, a variety of Olympic-themed commemorative designs were issued as well. These included depictions of athletes in action, cross-country skiing, speed skating, ice hockey, sledge hockey, and others, each one backed by the familiar Canadian maple leaf and the Olympic rings, along with the text Vancouver 2010 inch. These special editions brought visibility to various Olympic sports and helped foster national unity and excitement in the run-up to the Vancouver Games. Many of these coins were released in colorized versions as well as regular base metal strikes, technical specifications, and materials. The 2009 Canadian 25 cent coin is minted using nickel-plated steel, a composition that was adopted by the Royal Canadian Mint in the early 2000s as part of a cost-saving initiative. The switch from pure nickel or silver in earlier decades allowed for lower production costs while maintaining the coin's appearance and durability. The coin has a diameter of 23.88 millimeters, a weight of 4.4 grams, and features a reeded edge, which is a standard anti-counterfeiting measure. The alignment is medal style, meaning the images on the front and back are aligned upright relative to one another, a detail that is often missed by casual observers but noted by serious collectors. In some versions, particularly the Olympic coins, you may find a small Royal Canadian Mint logo, a stylized maple leaf, indicating modern minting practices and quality assurance. The finish of the coin depends on the type. Circulated coins have a standard business strike, while collector versions may be specimen grade, proof, or color-enhanced mintage and circulation figures. In 2009, the Royal Canadian Mint produced millions of these coins to meet both regular transactional needs and collector demand. The standard caribou design had a mintage of approximately 266 million coins, making it widely available in circulation. Meanwhile, the Olympic-themed coins had more controlled mintages. For example, the cross-country skiing quarter had a mintage of 22 million, while the women's ice hockey quarter saw a mintage of 19 million, with even fewer for special versions like colored coins or collector sets. These coins were distributed through banks, coin dealers, and special Olympic promotional programs. Some were also available through direct orders from the Royal Canadian Mint in sealed rolls or collector packaging, allowing both casual collectors and serious numismatists access to fresh from the mint specimens. Because of their Olympic affiliation and limited release, Some of these coins are now considered collectibles, especially in mint condition collector value and market availability in the general marketplace. The value of a 2009 Canadian 25-cent coin varies significantly based on its condition, variety, and rarity. A regular circulation coin in worn condition typically retains its face value of 25 Canadian cents. However, an uncirculated or mint state version, especially one with a unique Olympic design, may sell for 1 to 5 Canadian dollars, and sometimes more if graded by a professional service. The colored variants, which were not widely circulated, are particularly desirable, fetching between 5 and 20 Canadian dollars depending on the sport, demand, and condition. Coins that are graded MS-65 or higher, mint state, can command premiums on auction sites or from specialized coin shops. Notably, proof or specimen versions that came from Royal Canadian Mint sets can be worth considerably more, especially when accompanied by original packaging or certificates of authenticity in terms of availability. These coins are often found on online marketplaces such as eBay, Etsy, or through dedicated coin dealers like Coins Unlimited, Colonial Acres, and the Coin Shop. Many local coin shops in Canada and even some pawn shops carry these coins as part of their modern coin inventory. Canadian collector forums and Facebook groups also serve as vibrant trading communities where collectors buy, sell, and exchange coins like the 2009 quarter. If you're looking to sell or evaluate your coin, it's advisable to compare prices across multiple platforms and possibly consult a certified numismatist. Top 2. The 2001 Canada 25-cent coin, Elizabeth II Caribou type, including history, design, technical specs, varieties, market value, and where you might buy or sell. If you want info more specific to your coin, I can help with that. 2. Historical and contextual background. The 2001 Canadian quarter is part of the continuing line of circulating 25-cent coins featuring Queen Elizabeth II. In 2001, coinage in Canada was under the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, and the obverse portrait used was by the artist Dora de Pedery Hunt, who was 64 at that time. This was one of the third portrait designs, used from 1990 until about 2003, before later updates. The choice of portrait reflected evolving tastes and coinage design style, emphasizing realism and detail. On the reverse side, the familiar caribou design, by Emmanuel Hahn, continued to be used. The caribou has been a symbol of Canada's natural heritage for many decades, and Hahn's design has appeared on the quarter since the 1930s, with various updates in portrait and metal composition over time. 2001 also saw a special issue in the Canada Day series. Colorized quarters struck for collector interest rather than primarily for circulation. These are non-standard in everyday commerce, intended to appeal to collectors and those wanting thematic or commemorative coins. Design and symbolism. Obverse, front, portrait is of Queen Elizabeth II, age 64, wearing a crown and appropriate ceremonial dress. This portrait was sculpted by Dora de Pedery Hunt, a noted Canadian sculptor and the first Canadian woman to design an effigy of the Queen for Canadian coinage. Elizabeth II d'G. Regina. The P mint mark also appears under the Queen's portrait, indicating a planchet nickel-plated steel issue. Reverse, back. Main design, a caribou head facing left, with the denomination 25 cents placed between the antlers. To the left is Canada, to the right is the year 2001. This is Emmanuel Hahn's reverse design, long used on Canadian quarters for the Canada Day color issue. The reverse features imagery related to Canada Day, specifically children holding hands beneath a stylized maple leaf, with color added, as part of the Canada Day colored edition. These were issued more for collectors. Technical specifications. Here are the standard specifications and physical properties for the 2001 quarter issues. Property: standard circulation, nickel caribou, P mark nickel plated steel Canada Day color issuance. Composition: solid nickel, older standard issue. For some varieties in 2001, non-P, nickel-plated steel. The P mark versions, same base metal, nickel-plated steel, plus paint/color application. Weight: 5.05 grams, 4.40 grams, 4.40 g plus negligible for paint. Diameter: 23.88 mm. Same diameter. Edge reeded ribbed. Same mintage. Quantities for the solid nickel non-P varieties. Mintage was lower, about 8,415,000 coins for the P version. Mintage was 55,773,000 coins. For the Canada Day color issue, about 96,352 coins. The solid nickel versus nickel-plated steel difference is important to distinguish versions. The P designation typically marks the plated steel ones. Non-P ones are solid nickel and were fewer. For collectors, the non-P solid nickel ones tend to be more desirable because most newer quarters are plated steel varieties and special issues standard circulation solid nickel non-P. The earlier 2001 quarters that are not plated steel are rarer, and indicate a variant before the P mark widespread use P mark plated steel version, much more common in circulation. As after mid/late 1990s, Canada started moving to plated steel for many coins to reduce cost. The P looks like a small P under the Queen's Portrait Canada Day Color Spirit issue. In 2001, there was a colorized quarter released for Canada Day, part of a collector series. It depicts children under a maple leaf, with a red maple leaf and the theme, Spirit Canada Day. This coin is non-circulating legal tender, valid coin, but intended for collectors, often sold in special packages. There may also be proof or specimen coins, which are struck specially and tend to have superior surfaces, often intended for collectors or in mint sets. Market value collectability. The value of a 2001 Canadian quarter depends heavily on which variety it is. Solid nickel versus plated steel, P mark versus non-P, its condition, grade, and whether it is a special issue, Canada Day color, proof, etc. Here are approximate values and what influences them. A common circulated P coin, plated steel, in typical condition, often trades very close to face value or slightly above, depending on collector interest, perhaps 30 cents to $1 or similar. A non-P solid nickel version in uncirculated or near mint condition can command more, perhaps CAD $3, CAD $10 or more, depending on grade, MS63, MS64, etc. The Canada Day color issue is more collectible. Because only 96,352 were made, in good condition these color coins often get USD/$8 to $15 or more, price depends on grade, demand. When sold by dealers, proof or specimen versions, especially those in mint sets or with certificates, may go for higher prices. Though the market for these modern quarters is modest unless condition is exceptional. Other factors that influence price: presence of mint mark, overall condition, wear, scratches, luster, whether the coin retains original mint packaging, proof set, or color, especially for the Canada Day special demand among collectors in your region or online. Top 3. The 1981 Canada 25-cent coin, Queen Elizabeth II, Caribou Reverse, including its history, design, technical specs, mintage and varieties, collector value and where to buy or sell. If you want, I can also try to find what similar coins go for in Pakistan. Historical and contextual background. The 1981 Canada 25 cents coin is part of Canada's regular circulating coinage under Queen Elizabeth II's reign. By 1981, Canada had firmly established a pattern of placing the Queen's bust on the obverse, front, of its coins and using the caribou motif on the reverse for the quarter denomination. These coins were everyday money, meant for commerce, vending machines, change, but over time many have become collector's items, especially in uncirculated or proof condition. This coin falls into the second portrait era for Elizabeth II in Canada, which spans from 1979 to 1989. In 1979, the Royal Canadian Mint introduced a newer portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, replacing the earlier portrait. So the 1981 quarter carries that portrait style. The reverse design, depicting a caribou, is by Emmanuel Hahn, a design that is iconic in Canadian numismatics and has been used on quarters since the mid-20th century. 1981 is fairly notable because mintages were still large, and the coins were made of 100% nickel, a durable and traditional metal for Canadian coinage before cost pressures led to different alloys in later years. Design, symbolism and artistic details. Obverse, front. The coin bears the bust of Queen Elizabeth II facing right. The artist/designer is Arnold Machin. His portrait is more stylized than the earlier portraits, with the Queen wearing a diadem, crown, and with detail in the hair and facial features. This style is part of the second portrait. Series surrounding the portrait are the Elizabeth II D.G. Regina. D.G. Regina is Latin, Dei Gratia Regina, meaning, by the grace of God. Queen reverse, back. The reverse shows a caribou facing left. The antlers are prominent, and between or near their bases is the denomination 25 cents. On one side, usually the right, is the date 1981, and on the other side is Canada. The designer is Emmanuel Hahn. The caribou has been a symbol of Canada's wildlife/nature. It evokes wilderness, northern territory, rugged landscapes, elements central to Canadian identity. The edge of the coin is reeded, grooved, which is typical for many coins to deter clipping, counterfeiting, and to help with handling. Technical specifications. Here are the precise technical details for the 1981 quarter of feature specification. Composition metal 100% pure nickel. This was before the shift to plated steel or other alloys in later years. Weight approximately 5.07 grams. Diameter 23.88 millimeters. Edge reeded, grooved. Mintage about 131,583,900 coins. Mint Ottawa, Royal Canadian Mint. There is no mint mark. This was typical for most circulation coins of this type. Designers obverse. Arnold McKin, reverse, Emmanuel Hahn varieties, special strikes, and notable variations, while the 1981 quarter was primarily a standard circulation strike. There are a few variations in grades that collectors pay attention to. Brilliant uncirculated coins that have not been used in everyday transactions and retain sharp detail and good luster. Many dealers list BU versions for sale. For instance, the Coin Authority has 1981 BU at certain prices, proof or proof-like versions. These are specially struck coins, often in special sets by the mint, with finishes that are more mirror-like or carefully polished. The specimen or proof/proof-like coins are rarer and more desirable high mint state grades. Grades like MS63, MS64, MS65, and higher, MS66, etc., are particularly sought after. As the grade increases, so does the premium. For example, a certified MS66 is much more valuable than a worn coin. There are listings for MS63, MS64, MS66. Error coins, unusual strikes. There are rare examples of error coins, such as one struck on incorrect planchets, blanks made for another country, misstrikes, etc. One listing shows a coin struck on a Bangladesh planchet, which is extremely rare and has high value among numismatists. Value collectability. What a 1981 Canada 25-cent coin is worth depends heavily on its condition, grade, whether it is a proof or specimen, and whether there are special errors. Here are some value guidelines, approximate, for the Canadian international market. A common circulated coin, worn, average condition, is usually worth close to face value, perhaps a little more for collectors depending on condition and demand. Often the price is under $1 Canadian to a few dollars for standard circulated pieces. An uncirculated, brilliant uncirculated specimen, mint state, depending on grade, MS63, MS64, etc. For example, MS63 examples may be valued at a few dollars above face, say CAD $2, CAD $10, depending on seller. MS65 or MS66, higher grade, can go much higher. There is a listing for MS66 at USD 127.50, while rare, as per one coin dealer proof or special finish coin specimen sets often sell for more, especially when preserved well and with certification error, or extremely rare varieties are much more valuable to specialized collectors. For instance, the 1981 struck on Bangladesh planchet error is listed for around $1,300 in one dealer listing stores. Dealers, listings, and where to buy sell. Here are some businesses, platforms, or dealer listings where 1981 Canada quarters are or have been available. Also some guidance on what prices dealers are asking. Coins Unlimited. They offer 1981 Canadian 25-cent Caribou Brilliant Uncirculated coins. The Coin Authority has listings for 1981 quarter, especially BU condition coins. Colonial Acres coins, several listings, rolls of 40 original coins, proof versions, MS-graded certified coins. For example, a roll of 40 pieces, proof, etc. Etsy collectible marketplaces. Some private sellers offer 1981 quarters, vintage coins. Prices vary. Specimen sets from Royal Canadian Mint. The 1981 specimen set is sold by some dealers. These are more expensive due to inclusion in a complete set. Top 4. The 1979 Canada 25 cents, quarter, coin bearing Queen Elizabeth II. Its history, design, technical specs, varieties, value, and collecting considerations. Historical and general background. The 25-cent piece, commonly called the quarter, has been part of Canada's regular coinage for decades. In 1979, Canada continued issuing a nickel quarter bearing the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II. The reigning monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, is featured on the obverse, front, side, with a caribou motif on the reverse side, a design that had become standard for Canadian quarters since earlier in the 20th century. In 1979, the Royal Canadian Mint produced this coin in business strike form, i.e. for circulation. The reported mintage is 131,042,905 pieces. This large number means the coin is relatively common among Canadian numismatics. The value of a typical circulated specimen is only marginally above face value. unless it's in very high grade or a special variety design and specifications. Here are the key technical and design specifications for the 1979 Canadian quarter. Feature specification/detail. Face value 25 cents, 0.25 Canadian dollar. Country denomination Canada, 25 cents. Catalog Krause number KM number 74, for the series 1979 to 1989 Canadian 25C. Composition nickel, base metal. Weight 5.07 g, some sources list 5.06 g. Diameter 23.88 millimeters. Thickness axis around 1.58 millimeters. Some sources use 1.6 millimeters. Edge reeded, milled. Orientation metal alignment, i.e. both obverse and reverse upright when flipped, obverse, front. Design features a right-facing bust of Queen Elizabeth II, with the legend Elizabeth II D. Regina, abbreviated from Dei Gratia Regina, i.e., by the grace of God, Queen, around the rim starting in 1979. The design of the obverse was standardized in proportion relative to the coin size. The portrait was reduced slightly compared to earlier issues so it would look balanced on smaller denominations. The design is credited to Arnold Machin for the portrait, in Britain, used for this series of Canadian coinage. Reverse, back. Design on the reverse is a depiction of a caribou, facing left. Between the antlers is the denomination 25/cents. To one side is Canada and to the other is the date 1979. In the field, near the caribou's neck, is the letter H, which is the designer's mark for Emmanuel Otto Hahn, the caribou motif designer. This caribou motif had been used in prior years, since the 1930s, and remained iconic for the Canadian quarter varieties. Errors and notable features. While the 1979 Canadian quarter is fairly straightforward, there are some considerations and minor varieties to watch for proof-like, or specimen, and uncirculated issues. Some coins, not intended for circulation, may have proof-like or specimen finishes. These are more carefully struck and preserved, often commanding a premium. Minting errors and varieties. As with many coins, errors, such as die cracks, misstrikes, double dies, or missing edge reading, can raise value. For example, one listing shows a no reading error for a 1979 quarter. However, such error pieces are uncommon and must be well authenticated to command value. Bead placement spacing on obverse. While the bead spacing, near beads versus far beads, is a noted variety in some years for this series, especially in 1980, it is less commonly highlighted for 1979 specifically. Still, collectors sometimes check bead spacing or rim bead proximity. Wear, toning, and condition. As always with circulated coins, the grade heavily influences collectible value. Estimated values and market. Because the 1979 quarter is common, in circulated condition it usually trades not far above its face value. That said, in uncirculated or near mint condition, or with a desirable error/variety, it can fetch more among collectors. Some value ranges according to Ferronum. Circulated specimens might fetch $0.43 to $1.20 depending on grade. In higher mint state, MS, or uncirculated condition, the premiums are greater. Coins Unlimited lists the brilliant uncirculated 1979 quarter for $1 Canadian and 25 cents, i.e. Canadian dollars, in stock in numismatic catalogs. Values in MS63 for similar coin series are cited. 4. Nearby years, at $0.75 and up, but it's important to emphasize, condition is key. A worn 1979 quarter may only be worth face value or slightly more, but one in pristine state may attract collectors. Thanks for watching my videos. Please subscribe on my channel for more videos.